Jake Stuart with the National Sports Media Association. Today, I'm joined by Cincinnati, Ohio Sports Writer of the Year, Geoff Hobson. Geoff, thank you so much for being here.
Jake, thanks for your patience.
Absolutely. Well, Geoff, you're a writer for Bengals.com. The first question I have to ask you is, what was this year like, writing for a team that hadn't made the Super Bowl in, 33 years, obviously a big year. What did that mean to you?
Jake, it meant a lot. It was really a blur. I mean, my first day on the website was the first day of the website, and nobody really knew what a team site was back on April 15th, 2000. I was coming right over from the Cincinnati Enquirer, so the owner, Mike Brown, hired me, and basically we both said this thing's, we'll see where this thing goes, and it's been a great ride, and it was punctuated by the Super Bowl, which was really, the 22 years since I came on, we've seen a little bit of everything: close calls, blowouts, routes, terrible injuries, holdouts, lockouts. And finally the whole thing came together, and it was a classic example of a young team that got hot because it believed in itself. And it was, unfortunately, I probably didn't have enough words for it, but it was real fun trying.
Now, Geoff, obviously, your whole sports writing career hasn't just been, Super Bowl coverage. Can you tell us about what first brought you into the industry?
Yeah, sure. I was probably about not far after I learned how to read and grew up reading the Boston Globe, the great sports pages back in the day of guys like Peter Gammons and Bob Ryan. They covered the Celtics, the Red Sox, the Patriots, Will McDonough. We used to, there were two papers in town, and every morning I began at reading the Globe and the Herald, and I just, from a young age, I wanted to do it. You can go back and you can see my the class papers that I wrote. I wrote them like newspaper stories. My eighth grade buddy, a guy named David Blatt, who grew up to be, should be in the Basketball Hall of Fame here pretty soon, but we were in an eighth grade class together. And I remember my final paper was the Boston Globe sports page in 1981, which was like 10 years away. And I had myself hitting a 2-run homer in the eighth inning to lead the Red Sox to a win. And David was the NBA Finals MVP as a rookie in 1981. So somewhere in my past is that eighth grade paper that I think I got an A for.
That's awesome. That's such a cool story. Geoff, this is your first award from the National Sports Media Association. What does it mean to you to be honored?
Oh, it's really a big thrill, because I think Master Dave Gorin, who has created this, who is the founding father of this organization, as far as I'm concerned, he's brought it into the 21st century so well. He told me that he believes I'm the first writer from a team website to win it. So that's an honor, because obviously there's a lot of great writers out there in all parts of the industry, but to be recognized while still being employed by a team, I think it kind of shows where the industry is headed a little bit. I think there's, you can report and you can write working for anybody.
Well, you mentioned Bob Ryan earlier and a couple other big names within the industry. Who are some other sports writers that kind of inspired you to become a writer yourself?
Yeah, I mean, you can't say enough about Will McDonough, the great football writer there. Lee Montville, the great Boston Globe sports columnist, who could write about anything. I mean, he could take a day at the beach and turn it into a 750-word essay, and so witty, so brilliant. Wrote a great book on Ted Williams. But to read him 3-4 times a week, growing up on the Globe, that was, that was inspiring. As was the late great Ray Fitzgerald, who was really early there in the 70s. And then a lot of my colleagues inspire me every day. Guys that I look to, guys like Peter King and Rick Goslin and Alex Marvez on Sirius Radio, who broke in here in Cincinnati, the Dayton market. Those even the guys on the beat, right now, Paul Dana Jr., Jay Morrison, Mike Petraglia, Ben Baby, these guys, they inspire me every day because, we're all working, we're all competing. I think we're all friends, but we're all competing. So I get inspired by the past and the present.
Well, how much did your work, if at all, change as a result of COVID-19, Geoff?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, Jake. I think it probably really it made you value the one-on-one relationships with players and coaches and scouts. You're really missing that, so I think you really have to, instead of making 2 phone calls, you have to make 4. I think you really
Right.
have to, you really had to, not that, you don't always go all out, but you really had to stretch. I think you also had to, even though you couldn't have the the one-on-one relationship, you had to make sure you were still writing about people, and that was the hard thing doing over Zoom. And that was, but it made me value. I don't think it changed the way I worked. I think it made me work. I think it made me work differently, trying to get the better angle and making sure I got the better angle, and not to just blow off a Zoom and just to kind of go beyond the Zoom and maybe make those extra phone calls, because that's all you could do. As we know, that's all you could do is make phone calls. You couldn't do anything else. But for a guy from my generation, that's what we do. We make phone calls. So it wasn't all that different, really, than probably 1983, when it was easier to get guys on the phone. That's all, because it was there were no answering machines, and so it was a reminder of all that footwork you have to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's very well said, the way you put that. Geoff, I know you've been around for a very long time. You wrote some very, very well seen articles over your time. What's one maybe that stands out to you as a story that that you're very proud of so far?
Oh, well, that's a great question. I guess it goes all the way back. I mean, I writing columns at the Portland Press Herald. I remember writing a column about a guy up in northern Maine, and he couldn't play soccer because he had to help his family with the harvest. I remember going down to Odell Thurman's house. He was a great Bengals middle linebacker drafted out of Georgia. He only lasted a year because of off-field problems. But I remember spending a day with him in his hometown, and if you saw where he came from and what he had to overcome, just the fact that he played a year in the league was a tremendous accomplishment. And he I know he's remembered for not being able to have a career, but the fact that he even was able to have a start was, I think, a testament to what he tried to do. It's not all about wins. I mean, I know, when you lose, it's probably more interesting. And I think there's a crush of stories about guys that came back, who were down and came back. And I guess the probably story that stands out to me too is going down to talk to Marvin Lewis when he got the job. This is when he got the job as the Bengals head coach, right before his first training camp, and spending time with his parents, with his family, with his friends from McDonald, Pennsylvania, right outside Pittsburgh, and just to get a handle on where Marvin was from, and just how the climb, the long climb for a black coach, for an African American coach who became a head coach, and how he went up each rung of the ladder. That's one that sticks with me too, and that's always as you watch these guys, the battle for diversity in the league. I often think about the ladder that Marvin climbed up, and that day I spent in McDonald, PA, hearing about it.
Oh, those are all great stories, I think, too, Geoff. The thing that stands out to me is it goes a lot more beyond just the wins and the losses, that you see in the box score. It's pretty cool, that you note the ones that you did. The last question I want to ask you, Geoff, and thank you so much again for your time, is what advice could you give to some sports writers just looking to get into the industry, at a time like today?
Yeah, it's a great question, Jake. You guys could give me advice, probably, because the industry has changed so much, and that's one thing I should do, is I should spend more time talking to guys like yourself, who are coming up in this age now. But I do think there are eternal qualities for this job, and I think it's making the extra phone call, asking the extra question. There's no such thing as a stupid question. Find out, don't find out what, find out how and why. And, I think those are the bedrocks. And whether that's for video, whether it's for a sideline reporter, whether for a print reporter, whether it's for a team reporter, whether it's for an investigative reporter, I think, that's you got to be inquisitive, and you got to make the extra phone call. Don't be afraid. I guess don't be afraid to pick up the phone.
I love that. I love that advice. Geoff Hobson, our Ohio 2021 Sportswriter of the Year. Thank you so much for your time, and congratulations on your award, Geoff.
Jake, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much.